This is Focus with Jack Caudill.
And good evening, I'm Jack Caudill. Welcome to this month's edition of Focus. This month we're talking about the issue of homelessness here in Rapid City. Three guests with us today to talk about that. Anna Quinn is the Executive Director of the Hope Center here in Rapid City. Lisa Allison is the Executive Director of the Cornerstone Rescue Mission. And Ron Couts is a resident and employee of the Cornerstone Mission. The South Dakota Housing for the Homeless Consortium took its annual homeless count back in January. They found 802 homeless people here in South Dakota, including 194 children. In Rapid City, they counted 243 homeless people, including 41 children. Now, Lisa, Anna, you said realistically, though, those numbers actually much higher.
Correct.
In reality here.
Yeah. Kind of what we find with the point in time count, which is where those numbers come from, that is a 24-hour period that we get to count all the homeless. And there's a lot of individuals who are technically homeless who don't get counted if they're in jail or detox or living multiple families in one house or living in a hotel. And so we look more at the homeless numbers in the school system through the McKinney-Vento program, which is about 700 students every year. And so when we look at those numbers, plus parents and then, single people, individuals, that sort of thing, the numbers are probably close to 2,000.
Lisa, do you find the same thing? Do you find realistically those numbers are much higher than what you get on a one-day count like that?
Oh, I would definitely agree. I mean, we just have the 24-hour point-in-time count in the middle of winter, as Anna had alluded to, that, people who are doubled up or tripled up in a hotel, couch surfing with friends, they don't count. The definition of what a homeless person is has changed so much over the last 5 years that literally you almost have to either be in a shelter or living in a vehicle or a house that's unfit for human habitation to be considered homeless anymore.
Now, are those numbers here in town, are they going up? Are they going down as we see these days?
Well, the reports may say that they're going down, but the reality is I think Anna and I can tell you that they're definitely going up, and they continue to rise every year at the mission, and I believe at the Hope Center as well.
Are you seeing the same thing, Anna? Are you seeing the numbers rise, the need for your services more now than it has been in the past?
We definitely have. Back in 2013, we were averaging about 94 people a day, and as of 2017, we're at 151 a day. So we've seen a huge increase over just the last few years.
Now, Ron Couch, you are now a resident of the Cornerstone Mission and trying to move forward from there, working there as well. What is your situation? What is your story that led you to be a resident there?
Just made a misstep here with the job, and when I was in California, I could always find work, within a week. That's wasn't the case here, so I had to check into the Cornerstone. Stayed there, working around the dorms, helping out. And they asked me if I wanted to do a job as a driver. I said yes.
Is this something, before you got to this point, that you ever would have pictured yourself
Nope.
in that situation?
Never. No, I always, in California, I always had a job, always had my own apartment, always financially stable. It's like they say, by the grace of God go I. It can happen to anybody at any time.
How tough was it to come to grips with the fact that you were now in that situation?
Well, I was proud to the point that I didn't want to use the shelters, not because I didn't want to go there. It's just that my whole life I've been self-sustaining. I've always worked, always had my own place. And then it got to the point where I had to go to the shelter just to eat. And then, after a week, I just felt really comfortable there, and just did what I had to do.
Now, we talk about being homeless. Are there parts of that most people probably wouldn't think about? Parts of that they wouldn't realize that, oh yeah, that comes along with that?
Well, again, like a lot of people would be averting to showering with other people. That's kind of something you got to get used to. Or sleeping in the dorm with 49 other men at night. That's something you have to adjust to. We have rules and regulations. A lot of people don't like those. They're asked to leave if they don't follow the orders, and of course they're not going to like that very well. But we do it just for the safety and to maintain the overall conformity of the mission.
Now, Lisa, Ron talked about kind of struggling to come to grips with admitting that I need help. Mm-hmm. How big of a challenge is that with a lot of people to get them to be able to say, come forward, I'm homeless, I need your help?
There are a lot of people that really struggle with that because I think that a lot of people really want to be self-sufficient. And, you know, we're United States. We pick ourselves up by the bootstraps and we move on. And sometimes it's tough. Life conditions are tough. And like Ron said, he never thought he would ever be homeless. And we have several people. We've had doctors stay there, nurses, attorneys, school teachers. It can happen to anybody. But then there's a group of people that, you know, it's not as difficult for them to admit that they need help. So we kind of run the gamut from people who have a very tough time admitting it, and then to people who are very readily open to, hey, you know, I'm really struggling, help me. Let me know what I can do to better myself.
And is that same situation? You're a day center. These guys are a place where people are sleeping. You are strictly open during the day. Do you see those same issues, or is it a different dynamic there?
Very similar, yeah. You know, we see a lot of the same demographic that the mission does. We've had people with doctorate degrees. We've had people with bachelor's degrees. You know, it doesn't discriminate. Poverty, homelessness doesn't discriminate. And there are individuals that are very much, I need help. I'm sleeping outside. And there are others that really struggle. And you can kind of see it that I'll walk in the door, but I don't know what I'm doing quite yet. And you know, it's kind of a build up to say, I'm in a really icky situation and I need something.
Are there misconceptions about people that are in that situation for whatever reason?
Lots. I could probably talk all day about the stigma and stereotypes around individuals who are homeless. You know, it's everything from, you know, they're all addicts to they're all mentally ill to, you know, they're all dirty and living on the streets. And that's not typically the case. For individuals who are homeless nationally, the rates of addiction and mental illness are actually the same as the general population. The only difference is individuals who don't have money don't have access to care. So their addictions or their mental illness becomes chronic and more noticeable. You know, most individuals that we see at the Hope Center, no one would ever know that they're homeless out on the streets. They look just like everybody else. They act just like everybody else. They are just like everybody else. And so there are unfortunately a lot of misconceptions that they have to face every day. And then we try to raise the awareness and, you know, educate people about what it really looks like.
Lisa, are there misconceptions about the people that stay with you?
Oh, definitely. You know, a lot of the panhandling that goes on downtown has nothing to do with people from the Hope Center or the Mission, but people just assume that they're homeless when that's not always the case, and generally not usually the case at all. You know, sometimes people have got a spotty job history, but they really do want to work, and they've just through some life events, it's become a little bit tougher for them, but they are hard workers. Their resiliency just is stunning. I mean, they are so resilient. They're survivors. They have excellent senses of humor. I mean, our staff and I learn so much from them every day. A lot of wisdom, and they're very concerned and caring about our staff. I mean, if there's an issue with one of our staff, say somebody died or something in the family, they would be there to take care of them. And I mean, they're just very warm and loving people. And like Anna said, they're not any different than the rest of us. They're just great. Yeah.
Hey, Ron, have you had to deal with the stigma and misconceptions when people find out that you're living at the Mission?
Not so much, because I don't know, maybe because I'm like Anna and Lisa says, I don't look the part, you know. Don't meet the, I guess you could say the statistics. You know, I'm white, male, I'm older, you know, it's like I do have a car, you know, I do work, you know, a lot of them, and it's like Anna said, it's all across the board. I've talked to a couple people that stayed there. One was a nurse, and another one, he was a male nurse, and they came in, and they fell down, and they got up and helped themselves, and to look at them, you would never think, you know, they were just like everybody else.
All right, we got to take a break. We'll continue our look at the issue of homelessness here in Rapid City when we come back with this month's edition of Focus. And good evening, I'm Jack Caudill. Welcome back to this month's edition of Focus, talking about the issue of homelessness here in Rapid City. And one of the big things when you talk about homelessness, a special factor in there is children. Lisa Allison is the executive director of the Cornerstone Rescue Mission. What kind of special circumstances come along with being homeless as a child and with you guys dealing with homeless children?
Well, we get a lot of homeless children that come in through the mission, and then we do have a separate women and children's mission up by the hospital, and so we'll fast track those families up there as soon as we can, as soon as we have room. The women and children's home is always full, so the men's shelter is an overflow. But you know, those little kids are resilient. They see a lot of trauma and they go through a lot with their families, but they're tough, and we get them up there where they're safe. They get a little buddy basket when they show up with their own blanket and their own pillow and their own quilt, and they have a bed to sleep in. And we did have our own daycare, and we still have it. We just moved it from one location to our women and children's home so that we can focus more on parental bonding with their child and teaching parenting skills one-on-one with the child and the mother, kind of the Head Start concept there. So we're developing stronger families as we go along, and it's really neat to see. And we're housing more and more of them. We have some grants that we can use to house the women and children and the men too, but we prioritize families first.
How important is it that kids get what they need out of all of this?
Very important. I mean, kids need that bonding. They need to know that they're loved. They need to know that they're safe. They need to know that they're appreciated. The parents get that too, but we really pour a lot of time and attention into the little kids because some of them, you know, they're scared when they come in from some of these situations, and they feel safe with us, and that's our first priority, is they're in safety and making them feel secure, and then they can learn better, they eat better, they sleep better, their quality of life improves, and so does the mothers.
Anna Quinn is the executive director of the Hope Center here in Rapid City. You said you don't have a lot of children down at the Hope Center, but you do to some degree deal with children there.
Correct. You know, we see a lot of more toddler age kids during the day. A lot of the school-age children, obviously during the school year, go to school, but we really try to promote the parents to get their kids also connected to resources, so then the parents can concentrate on getting themselves connected and, you know, taking those steps for their families to get into a different living situation.
Are the needs for kids all that different than the needs for adults in a period of homelessness?
I don't think so. You know, all the basic needs are there. You know, you need to be fed, you need to be clothed, you need to be housed. And then, you know, the same with your emotional needs. Adults and children both need to be loved. You know, they need to have people support them and care for them and, you know, help give that hope so they can get through the situation. So, no, I think it's just approached a little different with kids, but basically the same needs.
Ron Kautz is both a resident and employee of the Cornerstone Rescue Mission. Talking about those needs that get filled, you're talking about shelter and food. How about the psychological needs for adults in a center like that? How has that been important to you, to have that kind of support there?
Well, that's with the rules. You need to be structured because a lot of these individuals do come off the streets and they really don't have any kind of structure. You know, and they come in here and we try to give them the structure. We try to give them positive reinforcement. We try to show them that they are appreciated and that we, you know, we're glad that they're here in the shelter, other than being out on the streets where they could, you know, get hurt or worse.
You said things are going well for you at the mission. You're
Yes,
now
sir.
working there. You've saved enough money to get a car, now saving up money for a place. What has that meant to you to have that support and continue to move forward there like you have?
Well, it means the whole world to me. Otherwise, I'd probably be, there's no telling where I could be. And I could have, like some of the residents there or guests, they move on after a week or so. You know, they just can't find work in Rapid City, you know, so they go somewhere else. And with some cases, it's a revolving door. You know, we see people that are from other states and they try to find work here. Me personally, I was fortunate to get a job there, and I'm very grateful. Like I said, I really don't know how to answer that. There's no telling where I could have ended up.
Now you said you're saving money to get your own place now. What's that going to mean to you when you finally get to that point and you can do that?
Privacy. Privacy, pretty much. you know, place I can go home to at night, fix my own meals, just, you know, relax. And part of the thing that I have there now is because I am there, staying there, is even on my off time, you know, I'll have people come to me and say, hey, Ron, can you do this for me? Can you do that? It's not a problem. It's just, you know, I could relax more, I guess you should say that.
All right, Lisa, and he is down there at the mission. You guys have been there since the early 80s. How is what you guys are doing evolved over that long period of time now?
Well, we started out just as an emergency shelter and a soup kitchen, and we are still a soup kitchen and an emergency shelter, but we have a lot more programming. We have program services where individuals meet with case managers, or they have to come up with financial and employment and housing goals, and they meet with them to move on. We have more grant funding to be able to house people. So we've seen a lot of success in housing people. And so that's been more so, well, we've got our own apartment complex. We've got a women and children's home now that we can move children and families into. So there's just a lot of stuff going on down at the mission. It's continuously evolving. We're always growing. The need is greater and greater every day, and we just do the best that we can. And I like what Ron had to say, because we do end up being family to a lot of the people that stay there. They've burned bridges with other people, with family members for a variety of reasons, and even when they leave, they come back and they let us know, you know, about different things, or they might need help with some other issues. And so even when they're gone, we still keep in touch with them. So that's really gratifying for us.
And you said it's been about 6.5 years now for the Hope Center. How has what you guys do changed over time and to what it is now?
You know, a lot of what we're doing is just trying to identify the needs of who we're serving in the community, identify gaps. So we started out doing the same thing, providing a mailing address and a phone number and a safe place for people to be. And now we're seeing, you know, more into educational opportunities and actually preparing people to have full-time employment and preparing them to have their own place. So a lot of classes and groups, a lot of educational opportunities, an advocacy program, a mentoring program. So really expanding that out and, you know, providing our guests not only the educational opportunities, but also additional support and additional relationships in the community to be there for them as they're, you know, taking those steps.
All right, we got to take another break. We'll continue our look at the issue of homelessness in Rapid City when we come back with this month's edition of Focus. And welcome back to this month's edition of Focus. Talking about the issue of homelessness here in Rapid City. Anna Quinn is the executive director of the Hope Center here in Rapid City. Talking about the high numbers of homeless people, and you say that number is growing. What do you think are the root causes of that here?
You know, there's a few causes. I think Rapid City Collective Impact has done a really good job of identifying what it is specifically in Rapid City that kind of leads us to this point. And a lot of it is a lack of affordable housing. People just can't afford housing. And the second big piece is we don't have jobs in Rapid City that pay a living wage, which is basically enough money that people can afford their basic needs. We live in a tourist community where a lot of the jobs that are available to individuals are restaurants, retail, hotels. And so that's, you know, minimum wage, close to minimum wage. And they're one, not making enough money to afford the housing, and then the housing just isn't available for them to get into.
Lisa, are you seeing the same thing down at the Cornerstone Rescue Mission? A lot of the reason why a lot of your people are there?
Definitely. There is a huge lack of affordable housing, and I think there's a huge misunderstanding of what does affordable housing mean. And for the folks that we work with, we would love to find developers that would build, you know, almost single room occupancies. I think I always say the cruise cabin, but add a microwave and a stove so that they've got a place, because a lot of the people who are at the mission are on disability, and they might make $733 a month. So if we can find places that are small like that, where they can get everything that they need for $350, $400 a month and still have a little bit of money to live off of, that's what we're really, really needing in town. And we're just not able to find that. And, you know, affordable housing to a lot of people is a home that's $120,000. Well, to somebody who's homeless and coming out of the mission, that may as well be $120 million. It's just way out of the realm. So we would like to see some of that, and more affordable housing. And I think Ron was going to visit a little bit about some of the jobs around town, different types of work. So.
As you mentioned, Ron Kautz is a resident and employee of the Cornerstone Rescue Mission. What do you see as far as causes of homelessness here? You said good jobs are tough to come by?
Manufacturing, like Anna said, it's a lot of tourism, a lot of restaurants, and it's hard. I'm fortunate, like I said, that's why I'm still staying at the mission. It's because I'm trying to save up for an apartment, and because it is hard. There are some manufacturing places around here, but there's not enough. I mean, they don't pay well enough to, sustain two people, much less a family.
Now, Lisa, providing these kind of services to the homeless here costs a lot of money. Mm-hmm. Is that funding a constant battle for you guys?
Constant, yeah. So we're always looking for grants to apply for, programs that can help us provide some sufficiency, and of course, we have wonderful donors. I mean, we have a very generous community. The city has been incredibly generous over the last year, put us in the general budget for the first time, and that has helped immensely. We do have some VA contracts, but those are winding down. So, we're going to be looking for ways to make up that difference.
Is that the same for you, Anna? Is finding enough money always a challenge to keep the Hope Center open and running?
Yeah, we've been very lucky in that we can do a lot of what we do for a little amount of money. But it is always a challenge. We, much like the mission, have been blessed by Rapid City. We have great donors, we have great organizations and churches that support us. But it is always a challenge. A lot of people see, unfortunately, those stereotypes, and they don't necessarily want to support it and see the benefit to not only the individuals and the families, but also to our city in how, supporting them and helping them get out of those situations helps Rapid City immensely. And so we work on it every day to try to get those funds to come in to keep doing what we do.
Now, you guys provide a lot of services. Are there gaps, though, still here? Are there holes that still need to be filled?
Definitely.
Services that can't be provided here?
Yep, there definitely is. The affordable housing piece is a big one. Working with landlords that will take individuals who might have a felony charge or who might not have rental history. Transportation is a really big piece, and we constantly work on trying to improve transportation. And, a lot of our guests, they don't have cars. And so they have a bike, or they can use public transportation, but it only runs until certain times, and if they work nights. And so there are still pieces that, we're trying to address and trying to find ways to fill in the holes and, get those people really taking those steps out of poverty.
Lisa, are there services you would like to see added to what's available here?
I would agree with the affordable housing and the transportation piece. I think, as Ron alluded to, more manufacturing jobs. I mean, you can work 2 full-time jobs making minimum wage and still barely be able to afford an apartment in Rapid City. So we need more industrial type things where people can really work and make a decent living. So that would be nice. There are grant funding out there for rent. We have 2 or 3 different grants to help with security deposits and rents. But we need to make sure that the people who get that money have the sustainability to be able to continue to afford their apartment. So that's where the good jobs come in after that.
All right, we are just about out of time. Where can they get a hold of you guys if they need to see what services you have or need your services?
30 Main Street, 341-2844.
And Anna, how about the Hope Center? How do they get in touch with you guys if they need to?
We are at 615 Kansas City Street, and our phone number is 716-HOPE.
All right, thanks for joining us. See you again the first Sunday night of next month.